This is the app, and it's accessible through this link here, the Transition .app at Diabetes Hope Foundation. And it brings you to this landing page here where you can start to search through and see the different schools and information. So one of the primary ways to use the app is to search by school. So you can hit the school search and say you want to look at Dalhousie University. You can enter it here and it'll jump you over to the university page, which walks you through the different resources. So you can see kind of the on-campus services, tells us that all 6 of these services are present and available at Dalhousie, and we can look at different accessibility services. So there's different ways to apply by phone, online, or email, and they're direct links that you can go to and see right through the app. So it's all linkable, so you can get the resources you need at your fingertips. We've, as Rajitha was mentioning, we've added these kind of mental health resources so you can apply online, or there's phone numbers that you can call right from here and get the help that is needed for your different needs. As well, one big concern when you're going to university is always exams. And as diabetics, we know that there's lots of accommodations that you can have where different testing conditions, if you can bring snacks in, be in a different room or whatnot. And so we've gone through each of the schools and collected that information and sourced it all here. As well, one thing we have to be aware of is does the university have all our insurance that we need and coverage if we're going right through the university? Does it have blackout periods where I need to make sure I've got all my insulin before the summer or something like that? And what's the max coverage? As well, sometimes when you're going to a new school, it's in a new province, so you might need to find a new endocrinologist to talk to and get help. And so sometimes you don't need to go to an endocrinologist specifically. You just want to talk to the diabetes program, talk to a diabetes nurse or a dietitian. And we've got links to the different diabetes programs as well. And so the final kind of resource here is we've just other social supports, where this can be anything from diabetes groups to just community supports and social supports. And this is all unique to each school. And so we've done a lot of research thanks to Vivian and Rajitha. And so that's the kind of base way to go through, where you can just kind of select a school and get all the information you want from there. But we've also got a second option to do kind of more of a city search, where you can say, oh, I'm going to be I live in Toronto, let's see what schools around me have the resources I need. So you can filter Toronto schools by looking at, okay, what accessibility services or mental health, like do they have mental health services, or do they have social supports for diabetes, or do they have remote learning, and see what schools in a certain city have, and that'll filter them out. And so if we search here, you can see Toronto has lots of schools that meet the social supports for diabetes. And if we look at something like York University, we can see it has a bunch of resources. And then if we scroll down to the other supports, you can see there's a diabetes on campus peer support group, and different links to join that on Facebook, and getting access to the wellness center. So lots of different ways to explore schools and universities. With that city search, you can play around with many of the different filters and see that they check off the boxes that you need. And so I guess outside of searching the different schools, we've included some rights and benefits information so that everyone's aware of what accessibility supports we should have at school, and that you might have to advocate if they aren't there, and that there are legal rights that diabetics have in the healthcare system and legal supports. And we've just got this kind of backing here with also things like the disability tax credit and all these different federal tax benefits that everyone should be aware of. So there's lots of really rich content in here that you can dive into further. But one of the greatest things I think really is kind of the Alumni Insights in the app. We polled about 100 alumni that have gone to university over the last couple of years, and got some information on their experience with diabetes and the transition. And so we've got people from all across Canada, mainly from Ontario, but we've got some West Coast representation and all the way to the East Coast, and got a lot of alumni that come from the sciences, but we've got arts, business, education, And interestingly, we've got some top diabetes worries. Of one of the top ones was, how do you find a new endocrinologist, or where do I get these mental health supports, as well as how do you supports for taking exams. And so if we dive into something like the exams, we can see a little further here that there's different survey results for something like exam accommodations. So which ones did people end up using, as well as something like managing your blood sugar. How did you manage it during the exam, or did it not change? So all these kind of interesting things that people going into the first year will really take some value out of, as well as just helpful alumni tips and kind of motivational pieces, just saying, ask for help if you need it. And so there's many categories here that we could go through, from different things like housing, where did you tell your roommates that you're diabetic? What accommodations did you end up using in first year? So lots of really, really great insight to be found here, and interesting stuff like on the tech side, where how many people are actually using insulin pumps versus using pens or something like that. And that's maybe sparking people to have the conversation like, oh, should I be on the insulin pump or whatnot? Or are there glucose monitors or flash monitors that I should be exploring further? And so lots of really great information in the Alumni Insights here. None of this would have been possible without our sponsors. We can't thank them enough. Abbott, My Diabetes Care, and Dexcom have given us lots of support and pushed us forward to make this resource available. So that's the whirlwind tour of the new web apps. The feedback from clinicians so far, that they're just very excited to have kind of a new digital resource like the Transition app. Transition Guide itself is so amazing, but they're saying that now having a more searchable resource right at your fingertips on your phone just is so valuable for the patients and whatnot, and saying the app's awesome, and just thanking us for all the hard work. I think there's a couple questions. How do you log into the app and or create an account to access the app? It's going to be just a web app, so a link that you just go and access. So there's going to be no login for it right now. So you'll just be able to go to the link and then scroll through it on your phone and find different resources. So it's just kind of like a 411 kind of lookup for diabetes resources for university students. I just see one more question, that what if a school doesn't have resources applicable to diabetes? Will there be info on how to access resources from elsewhere? We've tried to do as thorough research as we can for the schools themselves, and if they don't have diabetes resources, like there should be at least a clinic and at least an endocrinologist in the area. Like we've kind of tried to find something the closest. And then the kind of extra supports, that's where you can kind of look maybe into more of the like search by city. So you can say like, oh, I'm in Barrie or somewhere, and the school I'm going to doesn't have resources, but this other school does. So maybe you can get it from another school close by. Rajitha, did you have a comment there?
No, that was exactly what I was going to say. Most on-campus diabetes clubs are welcoming to all students. So you will always find the resources not at your own school, but a neighboring school. And if there's no specific diabetes resources there are resources that are related. So you still find that sense of community and that social network where you can still share your story.
Well, listen, first of all, I want to thank Rajitha and thank Alex for the amazing explanation and for your time in explaining the app and all the energy and amazing input that you've given it. It was a pleasure for our guests to be with us, and thank you for taking the time and interest and attention. And I want to wish you all a wonderful evening. And if you have any remarks or any further questions, please don't hesitate to go into info@diabeteshopefoundation.com and ask anything you would like.